Genghis Khan is one of the most famous and influential figures in history. He was the founder and ruler of the Mongol Empire, which stretched from China to Europe and became the largest contiguous land empire in history. He is also known for his military genius, his religious tolerance, and his legal code, but he was also a ruthless conqueror who slaughtered millions of people, destroyed countless cities, and enslaved many of his enemies. In this video we will explore some of the shocking things Genghis Khan did to his slaves, and how they affected his empire and the world. One of the most shocking things Genghis Khan did to his slaves was to use them as human shields. Historical accounts paint a grim picture of Genghis Khan's use of human shields, where he would force his captives to march at the head of his advancing army, their purpose to act as a buffer against the onslaught of enemy arrows and spears, effectively sacrificing them to protect his own troops. This calculated cruelty served not only to physically protect his forces, but also to instill fear and intimidation in his opponents. One such instance occurred during his invasion of the Tangut kingdom of Xia in 129. It is recorded that Genghis Khan used some 30,000 captured Chinese soldiers as human shields, forcing them to bear the brunt of the enemy's defensive barrage. The siege of the capital witnessed the tragic end of many of these unwilling pawn, their lives snuffed out in the service of their conqueror's ambitions. Similarly, in 1223, during his campaign against the Horrifying Empire in Central Asia, Genghis Khan again resorted to this mob tactic. Thousands of Muslim captives were forced to serve as human shields, some even suffering the gruesome fate of being tied to catapults and launched into enemy fortifications. The sheer brutality of such actions underscores the lengths to which Genghis Khan was willing to go in pursuit of victory. Beyond its immediate tactical implications, Genghis Khan's use of human shields has broader implications regarding the nature of warfare and the depths of human cruelty. It serves as a chilling reminder of the dehumanizing effects of conflict, where individuals are reduced to mere instruments of strategic advantage, their lives expendable in the pursuit of power and conquest. Another shocking thing Genghis Khan did to his slaves was to force them to perform brutal and humiliating tasks. Forced labor imposed on Genghis Khan's slaves knew no bounds. They were subjected to backbreaking work such as digging canals, building roads, and carrying heavy loads for the benefit of his expanding empire. These tasks served not only to further his military ambitions but also as a means of subjugation, a brutal reminder of their status as mere possessions at the mercy of their merciless overlord. Even more horrifying were the spectacles of violence and bloodshed staged for Genghis Khan's entertainment. Slaves were pitted against each other in brutal fights or forced to face wild beasts, their lives sacrificed for the fleeting amusement of their conqueror. Such grotesque displays of power served to further dehumanize the victims, reducing them to nothing more than disposable playthings in the eyes of their merciless master. The depths of Genghis Khan's depravity are perhaps most starkly illustrated in his demand for ultimate loyalty, often exacted through acts of unspeakable horror. Slaves were forced to commit unthinkable acts, including the murder of their own kin as a twisted test of loyalty or to break their spirit. One chilling account recounts the siege of the Quarian city of Otrar in 1219, where Genghis Khan, enraged by the murder of his ambassadors, sought merciless retribution. He captured the governor's son, who was also a prisoner, and ordered the young man to execute his own father before ending the son's life as well. This mob display of power served as a grim reminder of the consequences of defying the Khan's will. Similarly, during the siege of Nishapur in 1221, Genghis Khan's wrath knew no bounds. Upon learning of the death of his favorite son-in-law within the city walls, he ordered a massacre of unparalleled brutality. Every living creature from humans to animals was slaughtered indiscriminately, leaving the streets red with blood. In a final act of cruelty, he forced his own daughter to witness the slaughter, ensuring that the agony of loss would be etched in her memory for all time. A third shocking thing Genghis Khan did to his slaves was to exploit them sexually. Genghis Khan's exploitation of his slaves extended into the realm of sexual abuse, a horrific aspect of his reign that further underscores the depth of his depravity and disregard for human dignity. His insatiable lust and practice of polygamy were notorious, with accounts detailing his possession of hundreds of wives and concubines, many of whom were forcibly taken from the lands he conquered. The Khan's sexual predation knew no bounds as he granted his sons and generals the privilege of claiming women from the lands they subjugated, further perpetuating a culture of objectification and exploitation. Women were treated as mere spoils of war, their age status or religious affiliation having no bearing on their fate. They were reduced to the status of property, existing solely for the pleasure and gratification of their ruthless master. Genghis Khan's disregard for the autonomy and humanity of the women under his control is evident in his willingness to exchange them as gifts or tribute with his allies, further cementing their status as commodities to be traded and bartered at his whim. The Khan's insatiable appetite for sexual conquest knew no bounds, and he fathered numerous children with his myriad partners, some of whom would inherit his legacy of conquest or found their own dynasties. One notable example of Genghis Khan's familiar legacy is Kublai Khan, the grandson born to his union with a Tangut princess. Kublai Khan later rose to prominence as the founder of the Yuan dynasty in China, further cementing Genghis Khan's genetic imprint on the annals of history. The far-reaching consequences of Genghis Khan's sexual exploitation are perhaps best illustrated by a modern genetic study that estimates that approximately 0.5% of the world's population, or about 16 million people, can trace their lineage back to him. This staggering statistic serves as a sobering reminder of the lasting impact of his reign of terror not only on the political landscape of Eurasia but on the genetic fabric of humanity itself. These are just some of the shocking things that Genghis Khan did to his slaves, but there are many more examples of his cruelty and violence. However, we should also remember that he was not only a tyrant but also a visionary and reformer who unified the Mongols, broadened their horizons, and created a lasting legacy. He was a complex and contradictory figure who shaped the history of Asia and Europe, and whose impact is still felt today. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new about Genghis Khan and his slaves. If you did, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.